The council chamber went silent in a way that felt unnatural. 500 beings stopped breathing at the same time. Crystal walls glowed softly as the echo of a single voice faded through the vast hall. Ambassador Zirathkol of the Zyphorian Dominion stood alone at the central dais, his 4 arms spread wide, black-scaled skin reflecting cold light. "We claim the planet known as Earth." The word claim hung in the air like a blade. Old races stiffened, younger ones whispered. Some looked down, afraid to meet ancient eyes. Across the chamber, something shifted. Not anger, not protest, fear. And far beyond the council's walls, fleets were already moving. The Galactic Concord chamber was carved from living crystal, older than most civilizations. Its arched ceiling shimmered with slow-moving light, responding to thought, emotion, and sound. It had witnessed declarations of peace, surrender, extinction. But never this. Zirathkol lowered his arms with deliberate confidence. His voice carried easily, amplified by the chamber itself. Earth lies in the outer spiral, primitive, divided. Rich in resources, our fleets are already en route. Murmurs spread through the younger delegations, confusion, curiosity, excitement. The Lunari envoy circle leaned toward one another. The crystalline beings of Thesara shimmered brighter. The older races did not move. Ambassador Elier Kane of the Aurelian Compact rose slowly from his seat. His blue-toned skin had faded to a pale gray, and his hands trembled as he pressed them to the edge of his platform. "You cannot do this," Elier said quietly. Zirath laughed. It was sharp, mocking. "Why? Because you want that backwater world?" Elier shook his head once. "You do not understand." Several ancient delegates shifted. One closed all 6 of his eyes. Another bowed her head as if in mourning. Zirath's scales rippled with irritation. "We have conquered 47 worlds! Our fleets have never been defeated. These humans have barely left their own system. They fight with metal weapons and chemical fire." A slender figure raised her hand hesitantly, Ambassador Sirin Val of the Navari League, young by galactic standards. "If they are so weak," she asked, "why do we have non-contact laws concerning Earth?" The chamber grew colder, eyes turned toward the highest tier. High Chancellor Morvain, eldest of the firstborn, rose with effort. His species had existed so long that even their origin was myth. His voice sounded like wind through dead stone. "There are protocols," he said. "Ancient ones." Zirath turned sharply. "Show me." Morvain touched the control embedded in his platform. A hologram bloomed at the chamber's center. Ancient legal glyphs spun slowly, overlaid with crimson warning sigils. "Earth is under Quarantine Protocol 7, Morvain said. "No contact, no interference, no approach within 50 light-years." The younger delegates leaned forward. Saren swallowed. "Why?" A low voice answered from the shadows. "Because of what happens when humans are cornered." Ambassador Naila Run of the Saluran Collective stood slowly. Tears tracked down her lined, ancient face. "I was there," she whispered, "during the Terran incident." The chamber froze. "What incident?" someone asked. Morvain's hand moved again. "All records are classified, level black." Zirath sneered. "You expect me to fear stories?" Naila's voice broke. "We warned the Karak slaver clans 3 centuries ago. They laughed too." Saren's voice was barely audible. "What happened to them?" Quote. Silence. "They are gone," Morvain said. "All of them." Zirath stepped back, scales bristling. "You expect me to believe a primitive species erased an empire?" Elier met his gaze. "We tried to warn you." Zirath turned and strode from the chamber. "In 10 days," he said over his shoulder, "Earth will belong to the Zyphorian Dominion." The doors closed with a sound like distant thunder. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Morvain activated the emergency network. His message rippled across the galaxy. Civilian evacuation protocols are active. All species are advised to clear sectors within 100 light-years of Earth. Saren stared at him in disbelief. "Refugees? From where?" Morvain did not look at her. "From everywhere." Quote, 10 days later, Admiral Varek Thul stood on the bridge of the Void Talon, flagship of the Zyphorian invasion fleet. 400 warships drifted in flawless formation around him. Beyond them burned the yellow star humans called Sol. "Report," Varric commanded. "No orbital defenses detected," his captain replied. "Primitive satellites only." Varric smiled. "Scan the planet. 8 billion inhabitants. Multiple land masses. No energy shields. Transmit our demand." The human response came quickly. Broken, hesitant, Varric laughed. "You have 1 hour." The hour passed. Then the voice returned. Calm, clear, perfectly translated. "Our answer is no." Varric's smile vanished. Fire. 3 plasma lances tore toward Earth. On the Council's distant screens, ancient beings leaned forward in horror. Then the impossible happened. Energy rose from the planet's surface. 2 bolts vanished. The third struck an invisible barrier and dissipated harmlessly. "Impossible," Varric breathed. Before he could speak again, alarmed screamed, "Contacts!" Red markers bloomed across the system. Dozens, hundreds, thousands, human ships. Everywhere. They had been there all along. Varric stared at the display as the first human vessel twisted toward his fleet, moving like a living thing. For the first time since he took command, fear touched his thoughts. And then the human ship split apart. The single ship broke into 5 smaller craft like shards snapping off a blade. They scattered in hard turns that should have torn them apart. For 1 heartbeat, the Zyphorian bridge crew simply stared. Nothing in their war manuals had a chapter for this. "Destroy them," Admiral Varric Thule said, forcing heat back into his voice. "Show the humans what real fleets do." 3 Zyphorian destroyers swung their prows toward the fast-moving targets. Plasma cannons charged, bright as miniature suns. But the human craft did not fly in straight lines. They danced. They fainted. They vanished behind the glare of drifting debris. The first volley fired anyway. Plasma lances crossed space and struck nothing but vacuum. The human craft surged forward in answer, closing distance with terrifying speed. "Those are fighters," Captain Zera hissed. "They are too small." "They are too fast," the engineer whispered. "No ship that light should move like that." The human fighters opened fire. Not with beams, not with plasma. They launched metal. The bridge screens filled with white streaks, tiny and violent. The slugs hit Zyphorian shields and did not flare or slow. They punched through like rain through thin cloth. A destroyer on the left flank shuddered. Armor plates split open. Atmosphere vented in a silver cloud. "How are they penetrating our shields?" Varric snapped. "The impacts are too small for the shield sensors to track," the tactical officer said, voice tight. "Our defenses are built for energy and large warheads. These rounds slit between the frequencies." Another destroyer lost its engines. Its formation drift broke the perfect pattern the Dominion prized. The third spun, bridge section collapsing in on itself as more metal tore through. Captain Zera stared at the damage feed, her claws gripping the console. "This is barbaric," she whispered. "It is effective," Varric said, and he hated the truth in his own words. More red markers bloomed across the tactical map. Human ships moved from behind moons, from inside asteroid shadows, from empty space that should have been empty. They were not arranged in clean lines. They came like a swarm. "They have no discipline," Zera said, trying to sound certain. But her eyes betrayed her. Varric watched the patterns form, messy on purpose, impossible to predict. It was not the chaos of panic. It was the chaos of hunting. A fresh transmission hit the bridge. Then another. Then dozens. The speakers flooded with noise. Music. Loud. Fast. Aggressive. The translator struggled with the words, but the emotion came through anyway. It sounded like joy tied to violence. "Turn it off," Varric ordered. Before the officer could cut the channel, a human voice cut through clean and bright. "Admiral, you picked the wrong planet." Then came something Varric had never heard in battle. Human laughter, not mocking from safety, not cruel from power. Real laughter, close enough that it felt like breath against his ear. Across the galaxy, the Concord chamber watched through long-range sensors. Young delegates leaned closer, as if they could pull answers from the screens by force. "They are fighting as individuals," Ambassador Saren Val said, voice shaking. "Not as a fleet." Ambassador Naila Rune did not blink. "That is because this is not only their fleet," she said quietly. "This is their people." High Chancellor Morvain's ancient eyes remained fixed on the feeds. The glow of the screens lit the deep lines in his face like scars. "Look at the signatures," he said. "Many are not military hulls." A Novari observer ran a scan and swallowed hard. "Cargo transponders, private registries, passenger craft." He looked up, horrified. "They armed civilians." Elier Kane's hands trembled on his platform. "Every human who can fly," he said. "Every human who can hold a wrench or a weapon." His voice dropped. "They are all there. Back near Earth, Admiral Varric Thule saw it too." A line of bulky human freighters moved into the gap between his fleet and the blue planet. They were slow, ugly ships, scarred and patched. They did not try to match Zyphorian firepower. Instead, they opened their bays and released hundreds of small objects into the dark. "What are those?" Varric demanded. The science officer's scan returned with confusion and dread. "Mines, sir. Primitive construction. Chemical explosives." He hesitated, filled with metal fragments. "Primitive," Varric spat, forcing a laugh that did not reach his throat. "How dangerous can they be?" The first mine detonated near a Zyphorian cruiser. The blast itself was small. The fragments were not. A storm of metal shredded the cruiser's hull. Shields flickered and failed, unable to recognize the threat until it was already inside. Life signs on the ship dropped in a single breath. Another mine burst. Then another. The space between the fleets became a field of invisible knives. "Reduce speed," Varric ordered. "Hold formation." Holding formation meant dying. Breaking formation meant losing control. The humans had made both options painful. Human fighters dove through the minefield like they belonged there. They used the debris as cover. They changed direction without warning. Each pilot fought like they had no intention of surviving. One fighter slammed toward a Zyphorian weapons platform. At the last instant, it fired at point-blank range, tearing the platform open. Then it clipped the wreckage, spun, and somehow recovered, still moving, still hunting. Another fighter did not recover. It rammed a destroyer and exploded. The blast ripped the destroyer's spine apart. The pilot ejected into the darkness, and a human shuttle darted in to grab the drifting suit like it was rescuing a friend from a river. "They save each other," Captain Zera whispered, even as they threw themselves away. Varric's tactical officer shouted over alarms. "Ship loss is rising, sir. 30, 40, 47. The number hit Varric like a slap. 47 was the count of worlds he had helped conquer. Now it was the count of ships dying in front of him. A new transmission came from Earth. This voice was older, steady, and too calm for a species under threat. "Zyphorian Admiral," the voice said. "We offer you one opportunity to withdraw your forces." Varric snarled. "We still outnumber you." "Numbers mean little when you do not understand what you are facing," the human replied. "You have seen only volunteers." Varric's scales prickled. "Volunteers," he repeated, tasting the word, as if war was a choice humans made with pride. "Scan the outer planets," the voice continued. Varric turned to his science officer. "Do it, now!" The officer's pupils widened as the readings climbed off the scale. "Massive signatures approaching from the gas giants, sir. Multiple. Too many." His voice cracked. "They are larger than anything we have engaged." On the tactical map, new contacts emerged like a second sunrise. These were not fighters. These were warships built to kill. They moved with heavy purpose, in coordinated groups, silent and patient. Their hulls were darker than space, as if they drank light. And they were coming from everywhere. The Zyphorians had not looked. Captain Zera stared at the new wave. Her voice turned small. "Our intelligence said they were primitive." Varric had no answer that did not sound like failure. He watched a human carrier open like a mechanical flower. Hundreds of craft poured out, and the swarm around his fleet thickened. The Dominion's perfect formation collapsed under the pressure. Ships tried to back away from the minefield. Others surged forward to keep distance. The humans punished every move. A battered human freighter drifted near Varric's flagship, engines coughing flame. Its hull was torn open. It should have been dead. Instead, it accelerated directly toward a Zyphorian battleship called Terror's Edge. "Destroy it," Varric ordered. Plasma fire hit the freighter and ripped it apart. The pieces kept coming. They came faster. Then the freighter detonated with a light that drowned the stars. The blast was not fuel. It was something colder. Something final. When the glare faded, Terra's edge was gone. The bridge went silent. Even the alarms seemed afraid to speak. The science officer's hands shook as he read the residue. "Antimatter," he whispered, "loaded into the cargo hold." Captain Zera turned slowly toward Varric. "What kind of species uses a cargo ship as a bomb?" Varric opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Because another human ship was already doing it again. A passenger transport, painted with faded civilian markings, burned its engine straight into a destroyer. The impact and the explosion erased both in one violent blink. Then another transport. Then another. The humans were not trading ships for ships, they were trading ships for certainty. Varric felt his throat tighten. He had fought for conquest. He had fought for glory. He had fought for fear. The humans were fighting for home. A priority alarm cut through the shock. "Boarding contacts," the tactical officer cried. Varric's head snapped up. "Impossible. Our shields are still up." "They are not using energy to breach," the officer said, voice rising. "They are attaching. They are drilling." On the exterior feed, small human pods latched onto Zyphorian hulls like insects. Mechanical drills bit into armor. Sparks sprayed. Metal screamed. "Send security teams," Varric ordered, forcing his voice to stay hard. "Repel them." Minutes later, screams filled the internal channels. Then static, then silence. "Security Team 7 is down," the officer said. "So are 8 through 12. Varric's claws dug into his command rail. "What are they doing?" The answer came from a panicked engineer on a surviving channel. "They are not taking prisoners. They are destroying systems. Life support, power, navigation." A wet sound followed. Then the channel went dead. Captain Zera's face had gone pale beneath her scales. "Our air is toxic to most species," she whispered. "How are they even alive?" "They brought their own air," the science officer said. "And they are not acting like they plan to leave." Varric looked at the battle map and realized his fleet was bleeding from the inside now. The humans had turned wreckage into hiding places. They had turned sacrifice into strategy. The comm officer's voice trembled. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission." Quote. He swallowed. "It is coming from inside our own ship." Varric's blood went cold. "Put it through." A human voice filled the bridge, calm and close, as if the speaker stood behind Varric's chair. "Admiral Varric Thule," the voice said. "This is Sergeant Lena Martinez, Earth Defense Corps." A pause, almost polite. "Your flagship is already dying." Varric stared at his consoles as warnings blossomed across every system. Weapons offline, engineering compromised, life support unstable. Outside the window, Earth hung in the darkness. A blue jewel, quiet and unbroken. And on his bridge, deep inside Zyphorian steel, human footsteps began to run. The lights on the bridge flickered once, then died. Emergency power snapped on, bathing everything in red. In that bloody glow, Admiral Varric Thule could finally see the fear on his crew's faces. Not fear of death, fear of something inside their walls. A tremor rolled through the void talon. Somewhere deep below, metal screamed. Then came the sound that did not belong on a starship. Boots. Fast, purposeful, human. "Seal all internal hatches," Varric ordered. "Already failing," the security chief rasped. "They cut the control spine, manual locks only." Another tremor, a sharp boom. The bridge doors shuddered in their frame. Captain Zera backed away from her console, claws lifted like she could fight sound itself. "They were in the wreckage," she whispered. "The debris we brought aboard." Varric's mind flashed to the earlier orders. Recover fragments, study their hulls, learn their tricks. Zyphorian doctrine demanded knowledge. Humans had turned knowledge into a trap. The comm officer choked on his next words. "Sir, they are broadcasting something across our internal speakers." "Cut it!" "I can't." The ship's speakers crackled, then filled with low, steady sound. Not an alarm, not a warning tone. A human voice began to sing. It was rough, not beautiful, not polite, but it carried through the corridors like a promise. Other voices joined it. A chorus of breathing, laughing, singing. Captain Zera's eyes widened. "They're singing while they board us." Quote. Varric forced his voice to stay sharp. "Locate them." The tactical officer's claws flew across the panel. "No clear lock, sir." "They are moving between decks." cutting through bulkheads, using maintenance shafts. How many? A pause. The officer swallowed. Unknown. But multiple groups. Varick's jaw tightened. Send armed teams. Full force. The security chief hesitated. Sir, our sidearms are plasma emitters. In close quarters, one discharge risks hull breach. Varick wanted to shout, wanted to demand obedience, but he felt the trap closing. Humans had chosen weapons that did not care about the air, the walls, or the rules. A scream burst over the security channel. Not Zyphorian. Human. Then laughter. Then static. Another shockwave rocked the ship. A console exploded in sparks. The smell of burnt circuitry filled the bridge. Engineering is offline, an officer cried. We are losing gravity stabilization. The floor tilted. Crew members stumbled, caught themselves, stared at the red-lit ceiling like it might fall. Captain Zara grabbed the command rail. Sir, she said, voice cracking, we are being dismantled. Varick looked out through the cracked forward window and saw the battlefield beyond. His fleet was no longer a fleet. It was a scattering of wounded ships trying to limp away from the mine clouds and the swarming human hulls. The tactical map displayed the count with cold clarity. 48 surviving Zyphorian ships. Out of 400. Varick's throat tightened until his breath felt sharp. He had conquered worlds. He had watched civilizations kneel. He had never felt this kind of helplessness. The internal speakers crackled again. A calm, human voice replaced the singing. Admiral Varric Thule, it said, clear as if transmitted from the bridge itself. Check your primary control board. Varick's eyes snapped to the main display. Every critical system blinked warnings. Navigation compromised. Weapons locked. Life support in override. Captain Zara whispered, how can they speak like they own the ship? The human voice continued, you threatened our world. You aimed plasma at our children. You made your decision. Quote, Varick's scales rippled, anger trying to claw through fear. What do you want? He demanded. A pause. Then the human answered with the same calm tone. To make sure you never come back. A new feed forced itself onto the main screen, a camera view from inside the ship, a corridor lit by emergency red. Human figures moved through the passage, not in shining armor, not carrying elegant energy rifles. They wore simple pressure suits patched with tape and scorched by heat. Their helmets were scratched and ugly. Their weapons were metal, old designs, chemical firearms, blades. One of them turned and looked directly into the camera like he knew Varick was watching. Even through a scratched visor, Varick could feel the human's gaze. The human lifted one gloved hand and waved. Captain Zara made a sound like she was choking. They are mocking us. No, Varick said slowly. They are not afraid. The bridge doors shuttered again. The security chief raised his plasma emitter, then hesitated. His eyes flicked to the hull integrity display. If he fired, he might save the bridge. Or he might rip it open to vacuum. That hesitation was human strategy. A weapon made of conscience. The comm officer's voice trembled. Sir, incoming transmission from Earth. Varick stared at the flashing request like it was a knife offered handle first. Put it through. The screen shifted. A human face appeared. Older. Harder. Eyes like stone. This is General Aaron Pike, Earth Defense Command, the human said. Varick's mouth felt dry. You boarded my flagship. Yes, Pike replied, because you brought the fight to our doorstep. Varick tried to steady his voice. We will withdraw. You have proven your point. General Pike's expression did not change. You do not withdraw because we prove something. He leaned forward slightly. You withdraw because you are alive. Varick flinched, and he hated himself for it. Pike continued, voice steady and cold. You came here thinking we were weak because we kept our head down. A pause. We kept our head down because we have eyes. Varick's fists clenched. You hid warships inside your system. Quote, we hid our hope, Pike corrected. We hid our families, our cities. His voice hardened, and we built teeth. The ship trembled again, heavier this time. Gravity failed. Crew floated for a heartbeat, weightless, before emergency maglocks grabbed their boots with a harsh click. Captain Zara whispered, they are taking us apart piece by piece. General Pike's voice cut in again, sharp as a command. Admiral, here is your choice. Order every surviving Zyphorian ship to leave this system. Now, or your flagship becomes a warning marker. Varric's pride screamed. His empire demanded defiance. His bloodline demanded conquest. But outside the window, Earth hung in silence. Blue, small, beautiful. And he saw it clearly now. It was not a prize. It was a trigger. Varric turned to his comm officer. All ships, he said, voice low. Full withdrawal, retreat vector, immediately. The officer hesitated, stunned, then obeyed. Across the tactical map, Zyphorian ships broke and fled. Some still fought. Some died trying to cover the retreat. The humans did not chase with rage. They chased with certainty. A human fighter streaked past the Void Talon's cracked window, close enough that Varric could see scars along its hull. A painted symbol marked its side. Not an empire crest. Not a royal seal. A simple word. Home. The internal speakers crackled one last time. Sergeant Martinez's voice returned, calm and almost polite. Good choice, Admiral. Varric swallowed. You could have destroyed us. A pause, then her answer. We could have. But if we destroy you, someone else comes sooner. Her voice hardened. So we let you live. So you can carry the story. The feed cut. The camera image vanished. The human singing faded down the corridors, growing distant. Captain Zara stared at the airlock status panel. They are leaving, she whispered. Varric looked at the same panel as pressure alarms blinked. Multiple airlocks cycling. They are walking out, an officer said, voice shaking, into vacuum. That is impossible, Varric breathed. They have shuttles waiting, the officer replied. Small craft. Hidden nearby. Quote, Varric stared at the red-lit bridge and felt something heavy settle into his bones. Humans did not fight like civilized species. They fought like a storm. He sat back slowly as the Void Talon limped away from the system. Half the bridge was ruined. Half the crew was gone. His hands shook, and he did not care who saw it. A message arrived from the Galactic Concord. The battered screen struggled, then stabilized. High Chancellor Morvain appeared, his ancient face carved with exhaustion and regret. Admiral Varric Thule, Morvain said, voice like dead wind. Report to Concord Station Prime for debriefing. Varric's anger flared weakly. You concealed the truth. Morvain did not deny it. We contained it. The feed shifted. Another figure stepped into view. Ambassador Naila Rune. Her eyes were wet again. Not from fear, from remembering. What you saw today, Naila said softly, was mercy. Mercy? Varric rasped. Naila nodded once. They could have ended every ship. They chose instead to let you run. Her voice tightened. By human standards, that is mercy. Quote, the display changed to a star map. A bright line formed around Saul like a noose made of distance. Quarantine line, Morvain said. 200 light years. No vessel crosses without human permission. Varric stared at the line, breathing shallow. He felt smaller than he had ever felt in his life. Then, a final transmission arrived. This one from Earth. The screen showed no face. Only a signal and a steady voice. This is Earth Defense Command, the voice said. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek tribute. We ask only to be left alone. A pause. Then steel entered the words, like a blade sliding free. But if any fleet approaches our world again, the response will be immediate and total. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. Varric sat in the ruins of his bridge as Earth shrank behind him. The planet looked peaceful again, almost innocent. But he knew the truth now. The galaxy would know it soon. Earth was not a world to be claimed. It was a world that remembered.